the best. But everyone gives everything and every soul, everyone will feel life. Life is life.
Luka, how's the tour actually with the band Laibach?
Well, this tour, it's not been going on for such a long time. Actually, we started, I think, some 10 days ago. Visited a couple of towns in Central Europe, then moved to Germany, Netherlands, and today we're here in France. Then we continue to Toulouse. I think so.
The south of France.
Yeah, and then going to Belgium and finishing in Germany in a couple of days. But we started actually this Opus Dei tour already 1 year ago. Actually, Opus Dei Revisited, so kind of reinterpretations of the original Opus Dei from the late 80s.
Yeah, because there is some changes in the Opus Dei, and you remastered the album, right? Or recorded? Yeah.
Well, there's two things. So first there was a remastered edition of Opus Dei, of the original recording. That's was released I think last year or this year. I don't remember very specifically.
This year.
Yeah. But then after the first two tours, so after the May tour this year, we decided to also record the new version. So the Opus Dei Revisited was actually recorded during the summer, mixed, mastered, and it's going to be released in December. In December, so fresh 2024 perspective on Opus Dei material.
What's the main difference? Maybe the female vocals?
Well, that's one version, that's one aspect of it. Yeah, more feminine maybe. We have a brilliant singer from Sweden, Marina Martinsson. She's actually half Swedish, half Slovene. She lives now in Slovenia. She works with us for the last 5-6 years. She's a part of the band now, live touring with us, and we decided to also include her in the new interpretations. And I think it's a kind of a little bit invigorating to get that aspect as well. And other things, yeah, like new instruments, different approaches to recording. I would say maybe a bit more organic approach than that. Although there was of course certain spontaneity, a different kind present in the 80s. So it's like times are changing and we are changing and the music is changing. But we actually used some of the original sounds from that period, and some of them we changed quite radically. So it's like an interesting collage of old and new.
Okay, if I'm not wrong, you were only 5 years old when the Opus Dei was released.
Correct.
And so, how was at that time Estonia, or it was Yugoslavia, right?
Yugoslavia, yes.
Yeah. So, what's the context of the album at that time, and what was your point of view as a child?
Yeah, well, so Slovenia, where we come from at that time, was part of Yugoslavia. It was just some 6-7 years after death of Marshal Tito, who was like the great chairman, dictator, like De Gaulle of Yugoslavia, or like Stalin of Yugoslavia, or like Churchill. Of course, he ruled for much longer time than all these other guys. So after his death, there was really kind of a vacuum like a political power vacuum, also kind of cultural, because he was kind of impersonating all this idea of, you know, like socialist kind of prosperity, and also like the brotherhood amongst different nations and so on. So there was kind of a vacuum, and actually Laibach was born directly into this vacuum, into this rapid change, the lack of true master. So in a way you could say that Laibach took that position of the master, which of course was not accepted with big appreciation from the government, from the political powers. So, you know, for a while they were even forbidden and so on, having problems, but actually like after 85, 86, 87 they were already back to being allowed. So yeah, at that time it was, I think, already the sense of coming of the disintegration of Yugoslavia, of the system. Of course, nobody knew it was going to happen so fast, or when is it going to happen. But there probably was this kind of a sense that something is, you know, like huge rates of inflation, some trying some weird economic policies that didn't work, and some actually worked for some time, but not for long. I don't know, the shortages of gasoline, shortages of this, shortages of that. But in general, it was kind of still kind of a liberal atmosphere. So many things were actually possible. And I think in that kind of atmosphere, Opus Dei was also created.
A wind of change, a wind of freedom.
Yeah, well,
not so much.
Not, I mean, like more of a like disintegration, which kind of gives you a little bit like a sense of freedom.
2 years before the fall of the wall in Berlin.
Yeah.
And when you listen to the album, actually 37 years after, it's still fresh, you know, and it's still this is a monument. This is why you make a special tour of this album?
Yeah.
Do you feel that it's in the Laibach discography, it's a very important album?
Yeah, I mean, of course it's difficult to say like which album is the most important, because in a certain way every album is more important. I mean, it's very important, and for some people, you know, it's hard to judge, but yeah, definitely in, like, let's say pseudo objective terms, obviously Opus Dei stands out in a way of like, it was a time when they really, I think, were presented to a broader, Laibach was presented to a broader audience than before. So kind of stepping out a little bit of the very experimental alternative scene into, it's still not mainstream, but kind of like a little bit, I think, a much wider audience.
This is very interesting because it's one of the first industrial bands in the 80s. There are really few, you know, maybe Ministry in the 80s, maybe late 80s.
Yeah.
So what was the roots of Laibach when you quite start from nothing, you know? Did they listen to only rock at that time, and was it possible at that time in the 80s in Yugoslavia to listen of what you want, or did you exchange, or did they exchange tapes, or, you know, music?
No, I mean, it was actually not that difficult to get to hear music, because like rock music was almost everywhere, you know. So they did know Jimi Hendrix, they did know Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, The Doors, and then yeah, also when they, you know, when they traveled abroad, went to London for the first time on tour, of course, then they brought much more knowledge, tapes, whatever, LPs. But yeah, it was not, we were not like, Slovenia at that time was not that much behind an iron curtain in cultural sense, like all the Western rock music, even alternative. And of course they were also listening to classical avant-garde, Stockhausen, Cage, Ligeti and so on. But the problem is that they didn't have the instruments. So they kind of came out with some homemade stuff, some homemade synthesizers, you know, using instruments the wrong way, tape, splitting, almost like DJing, you know, using records, then taping them to create loops and so on. So they had to be creative to get the most out of the instruments that were available at that time. And then, of course, after 5-6 years in the time of Opus Dei, it has already changed a lot. Then there were already samplers. They could go into this symphonic direction, which is kind of the signature, one of the signature sounds of the Opus Dei. They were using I forgot, but one of the famous first EMU, I think, sampler with these symphonic bangs, and that's what created this epic Life is Life sound and so on.
Did you listen to the band when you were a teenager?
Oh yeah, of course.
It was your...
It was it was on my playlist. Yeah.
And I was wondering about Life is Life cover. What was the meaning at that time to cover? It was not so old, this song. It was released maybe 3 years before. And what was the concept of covering? It was maybe Western music or whatever?
I have to admit, I don't know really what was the cause of doing it, particularly this song. But there's a method behind this idea that, you know, that all art and all pop culture is essentially political, and that you can recontextualize basically anything, you know, comes from, you know, from the Duchamp, comes from John Cage, comes from ready-mades. It's the context that creates the content. Like with Duchamp's ready-mades, like they treated pop music as a ready-made. So the Life is Life was kind of a good example how it can be reinterpreted and with a different kind of arrangement, different kind of approach, different kind of attitude, you give it a completely different meaning. But I'm not sure what was the precise cause for Life is Life.
Okay. Again, when you listen to it, you can't today listen to the album without thinking about the new Dutch art. You know, I'm a huge fan of Oomph from Germany. Mm-hmm. You know this band?
Heard of it, but I'm not really familiar with it.
And they were just before Rammstein.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, you know the Rammstein today.
Yes.
What do you think about I would say the grandson or the sons of, I could consider the sons of Laibach.
Yeah.
And the sound and the way of singing, you know, and I'm pretty sure that 95% of the fans of Rammstein, they don't know you.
It's quite possible. I think that they made a quite brilliant, let's say, refinement of Laibach's music. Obviously, they decided to narrow it down quite on a large scale. So I don't know if you're familiar with our work, but like we do so many different kinds of projects, from theater, from symphonic works, experimental works, more pop-oriented works, reinterpretations, and obviously they found their way, they found their sound, their expression in some kind of a very narrow aspect of what Laibach did. And they did it pretty well. They, upgraded it, upscaled it, and they're very successful in this. So we're happy for them. But I'm not sure if they're having that much fun as we are. So there's a trade-off for everything.
If they invite you on a tour, would you say yes?
I don't know. I think we were already invited, actually, but I'm really not sure. In principle, we can play wherever, whenever, but it all depends if we have the conditions to do our things properly.
Yeah, because sometimes when you open for a huge band, you don't have the conditions.
Yeah.
And today, how's the band together working? And the last album was released last year.
Yeah,
it's pretty.
Yeah, the band is I would say, in a very good condition.
Still prolific.
Yeah, working a lot, working on many different projects. Like after we come back home, almost in 2 weeks' time, there's a theater project based on Brecht's
Bertolt Brecht.
Bertolt Brecht. We're working on. We'll have some performances with this theater thing.
In Slovenia?
There's, I think, 2 in Slovenia, then 1 in Luxembourg, and I think maybe 1 or 2 in Italy. Then a couple of new releases are coming. We're releasing a song called Strange Fruit by
Is it a cover?
A cover
of the song
of the Billy Holliday.
Yeah, it's a very, very strong content.
We're actually playing it on this tour. We're gonna play it tonight, and it's going to be released, I think, now soon, in November. Then we're preparing a Christmas song, which is coming, I think, in December. Also in December, the new Opus Dei Revisited is coming out. And then early next year, Alamut, which is a symphonic work that we did together with some Iranian composers and performers, is coming out in March. And in the meantime, we're constantly creating new things. So stay tuned.
Indeed. Do you release? It seems that you are releasing songs by songs, and it's quite in the music industry today to release song after song. Does it fit with Laibach?
Well, we have to adapt to situation on the market. We still didn't quite figure it out, but we're trying. Sometimes song by song, like with like special songs like this Strange Fruit or the Christmas song. These are kind of good opportunities for singles. But of course, we still also believe in a more rounded
full concept album.
Yeah, like we like albums, and we're still continuing to make them.
And to finish with these Strange Fruits, because I've just heard this song, on the content of this song, few months ago, and because of she's speaking about the dead bodies in the trees. Why did you want to cover this song? It's because of the music, the content, both?
I think it's both. It's really good. I mean, of course, the content is so strong, but it's also musically very interesting, especially one version that we heard, which is like a very minimalistic piano accompaniment and her voice. So we thought this would be a good point of departure for us to do something which was also new for us, because we don't do that many. I mean, I don't recall any songs by Laibach that would feature only piano and voice. So, and the content, of course, it's still very pertinent. Of course, it's not just America and racism there, but it's like everywhere, more and more, unfortunately.
Maybe it does remind you some, maybe not you, but the other guys, some strong pictures, because I mean, there could have been bodies in the streets, dead bodies, you know, in the streets in Yugoslavia at that time, you know, in the 70s or 80s.
Well, or in Gaza or Lebanon or Ukraine, or
it's worldwide and
yeah.
It never stops.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. This was a very nice and pleasant interview.
Black bodies swinging in the